Think about what that does to men mentally. You have to open the door. You have to pay for the dinner. You have to carry the heavier thing. You have to be the stronger one. You should not be seen crying as much as a woman or at all. That kind of puts us in a mental state where a lot of our trauma, there goes that terminology again, a lot of our trauma is bottled up. And I think for most men, we find healthy ways of dealing with that trauma. What's up, y'all? It's your boy Adrian, and of course we have
Your girl, LaShow,
and it is the Make It Make Sense podcast, y'all.
a podcast where we're coming at you with topic after topic about the crazy things that we see in this everyday life.
For sure, because you know LaShandra's real crazy, so we got to really dig into it, dive into that.
Crazy is as crazy does.
Right.
As a matter of fact, you saying that triggers me. Okay.
You know what the funny thing is? Everybody's triggered. Everybody's triggered about literally everything. I think during COVID, it was really bad.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone was triggered. And then we came up with this whole new thing. Like we have cancel culture now. You heard about that.
Absolutely.
What do you think about cancel culture?
I think cancel culture is a bit ridiculous. I think freedom of speech is freedom of speech. And if we don't like what someone says, then you have the option to not support them. But I think we've taken it to where everything is we're triggered by so much and we use that word so much at this point. We've taken a lot of therapy terms. And now we expect the triggers are supposed to be for our knowledge, but instead we expect everyone around us to walk in eggshells within our triggers. So I think that we've actually lost what the real context of true healing is supposed to be. It's not supposed to be everybody, everything.
You know what? People, I've also noticed like there's this huge push for this idea of groupthink. Like my whole community has to think exactly the way that I think. And I think that's the root of cancel culture because, hey, I don't like this thing. So let me get everybody to not like it. And now let us behave in a way where this thing is now deleted from the world. And I think that that's a sign of the lack of inner healing, the lack of, you know what I mean? Like,
Okay.
Can you be okay with not liking something and still existing in the world, you know?
I think, if we're going to talk about healing, then let's really talk about the idea of healing. Because I speak to it. There's a therapist who's gotten very popular, and if I can't think of her social media handle, but shout out to her. We'll probably put her in the
Shout out to the person we have no idea who you are.
No, still popped up on my timeline, and I would say that she's someone who's really blowing up as of late, Black woman, and she is a therapist, but she talks about how therapy has almost become, I don't want to say romanticized, I don't like to put words in people's mouths, but the idea of healing and therapy, we've normalized it so much that we've taken what therapy is actually supposed to be. Like now we know all the terms. We know narcissism, we know trigger, we know trauma, we know all these terms, but are we actually looking at what it means to apply things? And she was saying, like, there was a video she did about what healing actually is. And it's like, you'll know you're healed when it becomes almost certain habits become innate within you, right? Like I don't have to go around saying I'm triggered or these are my boundaries. It's just like, oh, they crossed the boundary again. I'm going to just remove myself and I'm not going to have any ill feelings. Or if I do have ill feelings, I'm not going to overdiagnose myself in this moment. I'm going to understand like I'm hurt, I'm sad, either I'm going to talk to the person or not, but I'm able to identify something and be able to learn how to move accordingly without it completely becoming a cancel culture moment or destroying my relationships or destroying all these other things.
I think what becomes dangerous is when we have this idea, it's like an unspoken rule that there is a place to be of perfection. So, everybody needs to be healed. Oh, well, we need to be this. So what is that place really? Or does it really look the same for everyone? And I think when we have that ideology, that goes back to the groupthink idea. So imagine, based upon that ideology, what if everybody's healed? What would the world actually look like? Just everyone doing the exact same thing, behaving the same way. And I don't think that's the case. I think that healing in that manner, even that term healing, are you healed? You know what I mean? It's just another term that we've gotten so comfortable with, and we hide behind those terms. But I think true being your true self and having respect for others is, I think, what we really want to get at, where we can exist in the world, and allow other people to coexist also, understanding that emotions are real. Certain things will hurt you, certain things will bother you, and that's okay. But I think that we need to also evaluate those things that bother us, and to kind of weigh them on the scale of, does this affect myself, or does this affect my community or people around me?
I think when we're talking about the idea of are we really healing or not, right? That's a question I ask myself.
How do you even know you're healed?
I would say I don't even look for healing anymore. I think that word has become like just oversaturated. I look for growth. Am I growing, right? In areas that I have previously been, a level 10 for me. I look for progress. And you hear me say this all the time. Well, that was better than last month. That was better than last week. And a part of it isn't this idea of like I'm healed. It's more so like I see that my behavior is improving and I got to celebrate that win, because 3 months ago, 6 months ago, 10 months ago, 3 years ago, I would have crashed out or I would have done X, Y, and Z. So I think a part of it is just you're looking for your growth. And I think the biggest thing for me is giving myself grace in the process of that growth, because some things come up and you don't have the perfect response that day. Like I didn't do good this day. How do I move on? And even then I look for growth. Like, do I move on quicker? Am I giving myself grace, at a faster rate, I guess to say? Not that I'm trying to rush it, but just that I'm growing in my acceptance of myself being human.
There's another term that kind of comes to mind when you were speaking, the idea of mindfulness. I think it's really important to be mindful as we move throughout the world. Just acknowledging what is happening around us, who's around us, how we're treating people in the individual moments. Because I developed a theory. So when I was in college, yeah, I developed this theory called the perfect person theory, where I just kind of looked into people and understood that our behaviors were the perfect actions that we thought in every individual moment, notwithstanding that you can make a mistake. Obviously, you can look back and be like, hey, I shouldn't have moved that way. But in the individual moment, I mean, like very practical things, like how you're sitting now. Well, maybe later you'll say, dang, the way I was sitting on that chair ended up hurting my back. But in this moment, this is what makes you comfortable. And I think that if we practice a sense of mindfulness, then we can really approach each moment of our lives in a mindful way, in a very intentional way. So when we move into the future and say we made a mistake, we can actually have the tools we need to like change from that, and not be like, well, I'm being a fake person, and I can't fix a fake person. You know what I mean? I can't fix if I was pretending to be something else. Like, how do you fix that? So I feel like if we move forward with a sense of mindfulness and thought about what we're doing, as honest people, and being a good person, I think that that is one of the steps to this idea of just kind of living well in the world.
I think yes to that. And I think when I think of what are we talking about when we're talking about make it make sense? I think the biggest thing that we're trying to make sense of right now is just the idea of healing within respect to each individual person. And I also want to be mindful, even with myself, of like I use the word fix, right? But that's such a detrimental word when you're thinking about yourself. That you have to fix yourself, that like what a fix. I'm not a
As it implies that you're broken.
It implies that I'm broken. It implies that I'm some mechanical thing that just has to be fixed. And that's not the case. I do have a therapist, and my therapist even got on me the other day, and I was like, I just want to fix this. I want to fix me. And she was just like, I don't want you using that type of language for yourself. Like that, you're not something so broken that you need to be fixed. It's more so a matter of how do we better manage certain things that go or flow, certain emotions. How do we better manage them? How do we adapt, better thought processes when it comes to certain things? And even like, and this stuff, affects us in our day to day. It affects who you have relationships with platonically, romantically, if we're in a bad mental space, like, it could affect how we communicate and how we deal with each other. So these are
I also think, sorry, and not to cut you, but I also think that it's important to kind of take a pause right there. And this may not be as much for you guys as it is for LaShondra, but in my time of therapizing LaShondra, I feel like there's some money I'm owed because I gotta go through therapy. Those moments where I have to sit her down and say, like, let's sit on my couch. I feel like, the therapist, you know who you are. Either you owe me some money or Sean, you owe me some money.
I feel
Because
like we should bring a therapist on the show to talk
and
about
I think we should.
men,
I think we should.
black men in particular, especially black men in particular, like the one sitting next to me, when they think that they know so much.
We know it all. I think it's important, but no, on a more
Do you think men are actually in tune? Because a lot of times we see women talk about mental health, therapy, all these things. What's up with y'all?
the biggest difference between men and women is not that we're better off, we're more emotionally whatever. The biggest difference is how we were raised and how society treats us. And here's why I say that. Men have to deal with their emotions and get over it. The world doesn't really give men a break as much as women kind of get understanding. We don't get that understanding. So growing up knowing that you as a man are the one that needs to open the door for the young lady, and there's nothing wrong with that. But think about what that does to men mentally. You have to open the door. You have to pay for the dinner. You have to carry the heavier thing. You have to be the stronger one. You should not be seen crying as much as a woman or at all. That kind of puts us in a mental state where a lot of our trauma, there goes that terminology again, a lot of our trauma is bottled up. And I think for most men, we find healthy ways of dealing with that trauma. Now, there's a lot of, understand me here. I think if men acted out on their trauma as much as they could based upon the ideology that's been placed upon us, that we'd see a much more violent society. And I'm not saying that men have it right. Please don't take it that way. I don't think that men have it right, but I think that the strategy that we automatically employ allows us to compartmentalize our emotions in a very different way than women do it.
I feel like I can't tell a man's experience. What I can say is this: what I wish more men would do is be able, and this is people in general, most people can't actually accurately identify their emotions and then express them. And I think for men, a lot of times, men will say something like, this happened, but I'm cool, I figured it out, or blah, blah, blah. And it completely takes away from a vulnerability moment with your partner or your friend or whoever for them to be able to support you in that moment. They might miss like, oh, this is still a struggle. It's not until you actually state, I'm still struggling with this. This is hard, to where they can be like, oh, snap. I didn't realize it was that heavy of a weight. I think that if more men did that with each other, because I feel like men should talk to each other for sure, with each other, but also with whomever they spend their most intimate time with, I think that we would see such a significant shift. Because I do feel like as women and as a society, we don't always hold enough space for you all and what you're feeling or going through. It's not something that we're always looking at or taught. But I think a part of that comes from, man laws and the way that emotion is expressed, because it's different than how we express emotions. So with us, we might blatantly say something. With men, it's like we kind of see it, but at the same time, you seem cool.
I think men and women interact differently, and I hear what you're saying. The needs of a man is very different than needs of a woman, and what you explained kind of falls more under the needs of a woman to kind of express in a certain way, especially using certain terminology. The truth of the matter is that men do actually communicate. We do communicate it to each other. You got to realize, especially if we categorize a whole sex, men, we have to communicate, and we also live largely the same experience in terms of how society puts a certain amount of pressure on us. So when we communicate, it might look like, if I'm going through some things in my life, my homeboy might say, hey, Dre, like, how you feeling? Like, you good? You seem a little off. And I'm like, man, hey, it's all love, bro. I'm working my way through some things, and for real, all right, cool. Hey, man, you know we got your back, bro, and that's enough. Whereas, for a woman, you may, and you could correct me where I'm wrong, a woman going through some things may want to kind of delve into the individual things. Whereas a man, we understand, hey, it's not the specific thing that I'm going through. It's just the fact that there is something that I'm working out right now. So, I mean, I would say like this, guys, put in the comments. This is a really tight topic. I think this is something that we'll touch on in the future. But what do you think? Because obviously you have a male and female host. What do you think about how we work out our therapy needs or our needs in terms of the whole emotional side? What do you
Emotional awareness, and just also like if there are any tips, men, that you can give another man, ladies, let the men do it. But if there are any tips that you as a man you can give to another man watching this, or even to my man right here, on how to not that's part of the problem. But if there are any tips that you can give that will help another man not only understand his emotions, but like what to do when they're in a tight space, maybe they want to talk to their partner or a friend or a professional, what suggestions do you have? And then ladies, same thing, like what are some suggestions? I actively do therapy.
I was waiting for that because it was all about the man. I was like,
Hold on.
because I'm sure gonna show up and be like, ladies, y'all need. So, some of y'all ladies is crazy now.
Okay.
We gotta make it make sense. The brothers ain't busting no window. I bust no windows on you. We ain't doing all that.
Okay, but we're not gonna talk about the movies of men being stalkers. Okay.
No, that's
So all right. But
listen,
ladies,
on that good note.
ladies, write down the tips that you have as well.
Yeah, definitely link it in.
And we'll bring this topic, I think, back up. Maybe
I think
with a
we need to
professional, because we're not a professional.
We're not, but I think our opinion matters because we're the opinion of the non-professional, and most of the people out there are non-professionals. I think we need to come back with another one on just vulnerability, because I think that that's a big thing when males and females interact in terms of the emotional connection. But we're going to end out this episode. We thank you for coming. Listen, this is a lot of food for thought. But on that note, we definitely want to shout out our sponsors. You can see them right in the description. And yeah.
It's your girl, Show.
And it's your boy, Adri.
And always remember, life can be chaotic.
It can be.
Okay? But if we're going to survive it, we got to make it make sense.
Got to make it make sense.
See you next time.
Later.
Oh, and shout out to Able Society really quick. How do we forget? My man made these clothes, period, okay? And he brought me these shoes.
Wow. Thanks for your leg on my lap. Deuces, y'all.